because we're the 7 C's, helping them weather?
Well,
seven things from the 7 C's to help them weather uncertainty. I mean, that's kind of poetic.
It's bordering on corny, but it's only teetering. It's only teetering. So steadiness doesn't mean pretending you're fine. It means self-regulation, self-management, so that you are not transmitting panic or worry or anxiety or stress or frustration to your people.
Yeah, and it's a cliche, right? But that whole phrase of put your own oxygen mask on first is a really sensible one to have front of mind. Because Hi, and welcome to our podcast, The Deep Sea Dive, the place where we talk culture, communications, change, leadership development and coaching. And I'm Lottie Dahl.
And I am Lorna Leeson.
You were the last time I looked.
Oh, I think
Are you just about Lorna Leeson? Leeson hanging on by a thread.
New lease on life.
See what
I
she
did
there.
I know.
Anyway, Lorna Leeson, what are we going to be talking about in today's podcast?
Right. So today we're going to be talking about uncertainty again, because it's not going anywhere.
No.
And front and centre of mind for us, because over the past few months we've been running training sessions, workshops with an organisation that's just been acquired unexpectedly. And I've been in that boat before.
Yeah.
And as an employee and also as somebody who's helped organisations go through that kind of change. And we were doing these workshops all online, and we ran these confidential polls, and we asked people, how are you doing? How are you feeling right now?
With this change.
About this change, yeah. And generally, because, you know, as you always say, we're not the different person inside and outside of work, right? So how you're feeling about work does seep through into how you feel generally. Yeah. And their answers were very, very human. So a range of some excitement, some kind of optimism, some kind of hope, and a lot of wobble. Yeah. A lot of wobble. So a lot of worry, anxiety, uncertain, bordering in some cases into like cynicism, distracted, uneasy. But what was really interesting is that these were people who on the surface, you know, they turned up on camera and they were very implacable. They're not running around with their hair on fire. They're not, there's no drama. This is wobble.
Yeah.
But it's sitting there just under the surface.
Which is important because leaders interpret wobble as weakness or maybe even resistance. But as we were at pains to say in these sessions, all of these reactions to change are perfectly normal. We know that uncertainty, our brains hate uncertainty. We crave certainty. And so uncertainty activates this really visceral threat response. And that's neuroscience, right? We can't help it, not attitude.
Yeah, like we said this week to a group of people who were very openly in that threat response, in that dysregulated place, as the neuroscientists and psychologists would describe it. It's normal, it's human to be this way. There's a brilliant author and researcher by the name of Susan David, who's written a book that I like so much on the topic of emotions. And we actually gifted it to some of our clients' people throughout this change. But she says that, you know, emotions, there's no value judgment on them. They're just signposts to need. So all of these emotions that were coming up in the word cloud are just signposts to need. And so I guess instead of asking, how can I stop people reacting or overreacting? How can I handle change resistance when we're going through change? You know, the question that is better to ask yourself is, how do I help my people navigate uncertainty well? And that was the job that we were there to do with our client. We were running sessions with people managers and with individuals themselves about navigating uncertainty. And we were hanging it around 7 key evidence-based things that leaders can do to help their teams weather and thrive through uncertainty.
Is that because we're the 7 C's, helping them weather?
Well,
seven things from the 7 C's to help them weather uncertainty. I mean, that's kind of poetic.
It's bordering on corny, but it's only teetering. It's only teetering. So and 7. So we've got 7 things to get through in this pod. That's what we're going to take you through. We're going to be efficient-ish. And
Good luck with that.
Let's see how we go.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with the uncomfortable one. Navigating uncertainty requires stable, compassionate leaders. Your nervous system is contagious.
Yeah, I love that phrase. Your nervous system is contagious. Our energy is contagious. That's almost scientifically proven that the way we are regulated, our physiology and our body chemistry can be caught by people in our proximity. So research shows that leaders who demonstrate empathy, compassion, transparency, steadiness, are able to manage their own state, they reduce burnout and improve resilience amongst the people that they lead throughout change. So that sounds very obvious. And we think we've all seen people who, I used to have a really wonderful person working for me a decade ago. And we would have this joke because we knew implicitly when they were in a bit of a dysregulated place, because I'd say, how are you doing? And they would go, I'm fine. And like the higher the pitch, the less fine they were. So we know implicitly when somebody isn't fine, and we know when somebody is steady. So steadiness doesn't mean pretending you're fine. It means self-regulation, self-management, so that you are not transmitting panic or worry or anxiety or stress or frustration to your people.
Yeah, and it's a cliche, right? But that whole phrase of put your own oxygen mask on first is a really sensible one to have front of mind, because leaders think that actually they need certainty, and actually what teams need is compassion. So if you're dysregulated and just kind of delivering the corporate platitudes, people feel it immediately, they see through it. And working with a particular leader going through the change that our client has been going through, what really struck out to us is how he showed that empathy, right? He said, I don't have all the answers. And actually how I'm feeling at that moment, do you remember when he said, I am feeling upset about what's happening right now? And it gives his people the permission to also be feeling those emotions as well.
Yeah, I am so proud. I think we've seen this in a couple of leaders in real time, in huge uncertainty recently. And the things that I think they have done really well with their teams is they've shown vulnerability. And vulnerability isn't like wailing and sobbing and saying how sad you are. It's just being honest about, I don't have all the answers. I'm finding this hard and I'm a bit sad, or I really want this to go well, and I'm aware that we've got some tricky things ahead to navigate. And when leaders can say those things, that's brave. That's what we talk about when we talk about courage and compassion together, right? Yeah. That vulnerability of courage and compassion together. And I think it's really important that you have a little bit of self-compassion, because I'm just thinking about the thing that you said about leaders think that what people are looking for is certainty. So we kind of put this mask of invulnerability on. Yeah. We put this mask of everything's fine, I'm fine, I've got all the answers, because that's the leadership model that I think people are looking for, that kind of strong person leadership.
Default to the corporate language and the corporate lines that sounds like it's been written by the public affairs department.
And conversely, we've seen some of that communication land, right? And the ripples that communication causes.
Absolutely.
Because it's disconnected, it's inhuman, it's not really telling me anything. It's saying everything without saying nothing, and it's not addressing the elephants in the room, or even acknowledging that there might be some elephants. So you need to be able to be self-compassionate, right? You need to be able to be self-compassionate, because you've probably got a little voice inside your head going, I should know all the answers here. I'm probably not going to do this very well.
I need to be strong. I need to be invulnerable.
Yeah.
Right?
And in fact, I had a conversation with a leader who was about to talk to a group of employees in a space of uncertainty recently, and they were saying to me, I'm not very good at this, I'm not going to do a very good job. And I said, the fact that you care about this, enough to worry about it, tells me you are going to do a good job. Yeah. The fact that you're vocalising this and thinking it through tells me that you absolutely will do a good job. And that authenticity is what people are looking for. So a little bit of self-compassion. And I think the sentence that really helps stabilise, not like, don't worry, nothing's going to change. Don't worry, everything's going to be fine.
Nothing to see here.
this is great, right? We're so excited.
Yeah.
This change is great. Like, that's bullshit. People have really strong bullshit filters during this time because we've got this bit in our brain called the amygdala, which scans the environment for, is this thing going to be good for me or bad for me? And that's where our bullshit filter comes in. It's reading all of these little cues in the people around us and the environment that we've got around us. And it's going, is this safe? It's really primed to be looking for threat when we're going through change and uncertainty. So don't say everything's going to be fine, with us all fine and dandy. You can say, and you probably should say, this is a bit hard for all of us. I imagine this is how you're feeling. This is how I'm feeling. I don't have all the answers, but here's what I am going to do. Yeah. I'm going to keep talking to you. I'm going to be honest with you. So that's where I would say self-compassion kind of in a complete circle with vulnerability.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's leadership.
Yeah.
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 Okay. The second is emotional well-being.
Mm-hmm.
So change always involves loss, even positive change, right? We are hardwired to avoid change. Even in marketing, there's a principle called loss aversion, which means that we will work harder to keep something we have already rather than try to get something that we don't. And this is evolutionary. This goes back to cavemen times. So we would want to hold on to the boar that we just killed, right? Rather than running off and going and maybe finding a better or bigger one. Yeah, I know you love it. You love a bit of prehistoric references. I've done that one just for you. You know, it's loss of predictability, loss of identity, especially when there's an acquisition, and loss of control. And this puts us into a really, really negative threat response state.
Yeah, and I think what's important to note here is because sometimes leaders want to go, cheer up, it'll be fine. Yeah. And it's almost the corporate equivalent of saying to a child who's really upset, stop crying, right? So emotional well-being is not like being cheerleader to everybody all the time. It's saying this emotion is normal. And the CIPD did an evidence review of teams who acknowledge and then can regulate emotion. So back to Susan David, right? Name the emotion, say it out loud, and then work to kind of, work through it, resolve it together and regulate it. Those teams are more cohesive and they're less likely to burn out. And so when you suppress emotion or put your positive pants on in the name of productivity, it's counterproductive. Just saying, I'm feeling a bit sad. What's going on? How are you feeling? Not living there, but being honest about it so you can work through it together is the way through.
Yeah, but emotion's a really hard word in the corporate workplace, right?
We like to pretend we don't have them.
We like to pretend we don't have them. We like to pretend we're corporate robots. And so leadership enabling and encouraging their people to express how they're feeling, even simple things like at the beginning of a meeting, just having that space to check in with how people are doing, right? Which we do as a matter of course. And when we work with our clients, we always make sure we build in time at the beginning of any facilitated session where we get people to identify and name the emotion they're bringing into that room. And they love that opportunity. They welcome that opportunity.
Yeah, and we do it through metaphor, by the way. So we don't do like, you're probably sitting there thinking, oh, Jesus, it sounds like group therapy.
Yeah,
it doesn't. It's
really
hilarious.
Not. Yeah.
We've got lots and lots of ways that you can give people a safe environment to be able to name how they're feeling without feeling that they're completely exposing themselves. So we're not going to give away all our trade secrets, but there are ways to do this. And I'm mindful of our time. So I want to move on to number 3 with your permission, which is sort of adjacent to this, right? So strong communication is the third thing that can help teams cope with ambiguity. So, and that's because teams are okay with ambiguity. What they don't like, what people don't like is confusion. Yeah. So strong communication that names the ambiguity. One of the leaders that we were talking about, I heard them say to their teams recently, we cannot over-communicate through this time. Yeah. Ask questions, ask them of anybody. Yeah. Don't worry about, a silly question. Don't worry about the size or specificity of the question. Just keep talking.
And what he's doing during that is creating the foundations of psychological safety. Yeah. He's making it very, very, very explicit that there is an open door policy and it's a safe space. So that takes time. Yeah. But they've already begun to build those foundations, and communication is one of the key ways that he's doing this.
Yeah, definitely. So it's not about having all the answers, right? It's about having that open communication channel.
It is, because of course what happens if you don't is you kind of delve into what's called the rumour fog, right? And we see this happen all the time where people naturally, because we crave certainty, they're going to be filling in the gaps. And this is where the rumour fog begins. And the rumour fog becomes a really quite addictive place to be sat in, but it's so unbelievably unhelpful. And really clear communication from leadership and open communication, two-way dialogue can really, really, really help, even if you don't have the answers.
Yeah, I heard somebody this week dispel that rumour fog so beautifully just by naming a hard thing that they knew people were worried about and gossiping about. And this rumour fog is people placing bets on outcomes that they don't actually have any data or information or a fact about. So, for example, we've just been acquired by another business and I don't think I'm going to have a job in the future, right? That's a very real... So we start kind of speculating who's going to stay, who's going to go, what's going to happen, what structure is there going to be. And the reality is we don't have facts. So that rumour fog kind of bubbles up. And rumour fog, by the way, was coined by one of the leaders on this training.
Yeah, but
we've been running. We're taking it and running with it. So it's that open communication and this kind of, we don't know yet, but here's how we're going to keep talking. That is strong communication,
and
right?
Really simple, clear, human language. We see the difference between authentic leadership communication that comes from the heart and corporate written by your public affairs, your corporate affairs department communication. And then we see the impact on an organisation's people as a result of receiving those two types of communication. So do not be afraid to ditch that corporate robot in these times of uncertainty and communicate verbally or in a written way using real, authentic human language.
Yeah, and I say this from a place of experience because I've been in organisations and teams being acquired and read this and been in the teams that are trying to lead employees through this in lots of different kinds of change. And I say it with love for corporate affairs and for legal and for some, not all, communications teams, particularly if you are legally PR or external focused, right? I see very, very few of those teams, and I do say this with love, but I'm going to be pokey. I see very, very few of those teams talk in real human, simple, plain terms about the things that people actually care about. They don't address the elephants in the room. Yeah. They wrap it up in corporate bullshit, bingo, and they don't actually say anything that people really care about. And actually, most of the time, they're not thinking about employees. They're thinking about investors, media, reputation, which of course they are because that's their job. But if you are leaning on those teams to communicate messages to your employees, you're missing an opportunity to really settle the ship. We need to get on to number 4, which is trust, which is relevant here.
And it leads really beautifully on because clear communication has a direct implication of how much people are going to trust you through this process, right? And trust becomes even more fragile in uncertainty, right?
Yeah.
And research shows that trust in a leader's candour and competence buffers stress during change. And again, from our experience of working with a particular client who'd spent a number of years with his team really consciously building trust, we saw that particular function was weathering uncertainty much better than other functions.
Yeah, definitely. And I just want to come back to those two words because that is the research. It's not just trust generally. It's these two qualities that maintain trust. If they feel that a leader is candid and demonstrates competence, then that buffers stress during change. And I was just thinking, Lottie, this maps really clearly onto the evidence base that sits around leadership, charisma and presence, which is based around warmth and competence. Yeah. So warmth is, I trust you, I like you, I feel safe with you. Competence is, I think that you can do a good job. You know what you're doing, I can rely on you. So they're looking for candour. You're not going to bullshit me, right? You're going to be straight with me. You're going to treat me like an adult. And they're looking for competence, which is, and I think you know what you're doing here. And so if you can't share everything, say why. If you've got to do something they're not going to like, acknowledge it.
Yeah, treat them like grown-ups.
Treat them like grown-ups. Yeah. Treat them like grown-ups. Yeah, absolutely. And do what you say you're going to do. So we are rattling through this. We've got, how many more to go? 3 more to go.
Yes.
I hope that
keep going.
Yeah,
stick with us.
Feels like a romp, but let's go to number 5.
Okay, which is
adaptability and learning agility, which sounds pretty technical. So let's break it down. What do we mean by that? We mean okay, this is logic. Change means stuff's going to change. I was going to say shit's going to change then, and then I caught myself and I said it anyway. Shit's going to change. Now, this is one that it actually helps if you've got this in the bag already, right? Building this through change is really hard. Having it in the bag as something you can rely on and should be doing all the time is going to help you weather change. So if your team equates change with failure, you are in trouble, because research links leadership behaviours directly to adaptive performance. What we mean by that basically is if you've got what you've probably heard of as a growth mindset, an ability to learn and innovate
and to make mistakes and
learn from them, talk about them, then you're much better placed to adapt to change, because you're much more flexible. You're much more able to see things that don't quite go to plan as opportunities to learn.
Yeah, and again, one of the leaders that we were talking to the other day explicitly said, we're going to make some mistakes here, right? We're not going to get everything right, and that's okay. And so again, just in terms of like building that foundation was really impressive.
Yeah, so impressive. So, and that goes back, you can see how these kind of all mesh together, right?
Yeah.
Because that statement, we're going to make some mistakes here, was an act of vulnerability. It's somebody deliberately knowing, oh crap, I'm not going to get all this right. I haven't got all the answers. I'm going to say that out loud. There's a vulnerability, and I'm going to be honest with people, treat them like adults. So all of that stuff is actually the foundation for number 6.
Yeah, which is psychological safety, and something that we talk a lot about in the podcast, and something that we talk to our clients extensively about. So it's not comfort, it's permission. The CIPD's 2024 review shows that without it, people withdraw, they withhold concerns, and they avoid risk.
Yeah, and that's that 2024 review was a full evidence review of all of the evidence that's out there on psychological safety. Yeah. CIPD, if you've got someone who's got access to those reports, and we have, so we're happy to share them. Yeah. But they do a really lovely meta-analysis of all of the data, so you don't have to, basically. And they do a nice summary, and then we can do a too long didn't read of what that actually tells us. And what it says is that if people don't have psychological safety, then they withhold their concerns and they don't take risks, which means they don't ask questions. They don't say, hey, this thing's happening, you need to be aware of it. And we had an example of that this week. We were talking to somebody in a business that was going through change, and they said they kind of put a call out to somebody who was new but quite senior and said, hey, just to let you know, if we carry on down this road, here's going to be some implications. Is that what you want? And they were like, heck no, let's talk about it, right? But lack of psychological safety probably means that those problems don't go addressed. No,
exactly. It's about saying, if you're worried about something, you say to your people, I want to hear it early.
Yeah.
And then when someone tells you something uncomfortable, create an environment where you're not shooting the messenger.
Yeah, which comes back to regulating your own state, right? Because if you are already feeling anxious, nervous, telling yourself, oh my God, so much responsibility, I'm going to fuck up here. Excuse my French, but that's the word you're saying.
This is a sweary one, Lisa.
It is a sweary one because uncertainty is swear adjacent. I've heard a lot of leaders swear during uncertainty. Let's just be real. But if you're telling yourself that, then when somebody comes to you with a curveball or a problem, you're less likely to be in the state where you go, okay, thanks, really appreciate you raising it. Yeah. And you might dismiss it or bat it back. So really important that you are regulated.
And it's that lovely phrase that you always say is that employee feedback is just data.
It's just data.
Right, lean into it, have your big girl or boy pants, pull them up, lean into that feedback, listen to what people have to say, and create that culture where people feel that they're able to say things.
Yeah, this is like big girl or boy pants up to your clavicle,
yeah.
Right? That's where they need to be right now. So, okay.
Number 7,
bringing it home in the last embers of our podcast. Right, purpose and meaning. Purpose. Right. What does the research say? The research says when an organisation, a team or a leader can demonstrate a clear sense of purpose, motivation stays high even when outcomes are uncertain. Even though when the fog is out there, if we've got real purpose, we can keep motivated. And the clearest examples of this that I've got in real terms that we all have heard about, there's 2 that I come back to. One is COVID. And those people who had a clear sense of purpose throughout COVID, I'm going out and volunteering. I knew somebody who switched tracks from being a theatre director to coordinating 3D printing of face masks and visors for hospitals, right? Those people keep themselves motivated and sane almost during uncertainty by having a real purpose, a why amongst all of the change. So it doesn't have to be a grand purpose. It can just be a focus on something that's meaningful right now.
Even just at a team level, not necessarily at an organisational level, which might be harder to articulate. So it shifts the narrative from what's happening to me to what are we actually trying to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. And it could be my purpose is just making sure that my customers don't feel the impact of this. Yeah. My purpose is just making sure that my team doesn't feel the impact of this. My purpose is making sure that the other people in this transaction get what they need for it to go really smoothly for everyone.
My purpose is just keeping myself really well during this.
That could
so I can be the best leader I can for my people.
Yeah, exactly. My purpose is in being, I hate this phrase a little bit, but being the best version of me so that I am putting myself in the best position to come out well. So leaders need to articulate a why behind the change that resonates with people so that they can see where they fit and what they can practically do right now. We talk a lot to people about the Stephen Covey circles of influence, circle of concern, circle of worry, what it is you can actually influence and control, and focusing on what you control and finding a why within that gives people a real certainty anchor.
And I think that's a really important piece of advice for leaders to take away, and a tool that you can work with your people, because so often we hear employees say, it's out of my hands, it's out of my control, I can't do anything. When actually you sit down with those people in the team and you say, actually, what can you control? What is in your circle of control? They always find the elements that are actually within their control, and there are more than they think.
Yeah, and I think we focus on those things that we've lost control of, right? We worry about, and then we try, and that's where the rumour fog comes up. We try and pin certainty down where certainty cannot be pinned down. So what that model does is it teaches us to just acknowledge, I don't have control over this, and I have to accept it. It's not easy. I just have to go, okay, I can't accept the fact that, we have made this decision as a business. We are impacting these market conditions. I can't change those things, but what I can do is focus on what I have control over.
Lessons, again, as all the things we talk about, these are lessons for life as much as they are working in an organisation.
Yeah, because we won't stop being human, as you always say, the minute we walk through the door, right? So, those 7 things, they're not revolutionary.
No, stable leadership, emotional processing, clear communication, trust, adaptability, and purpose.
Yeah, and so if you've got that stuff that we blether on about all the time, then that is the foundation for helping your teams weather uncertainty. And I hate to be the doomsayer here, but that uncertainty is not going anywhere. So, they don't remove the uncertainty, but they do help people weather it, and they stop it from being corrosive, because the risks of trust disintegrating, relationships fragmenting, people burning out during uncertainty increase exponentially unless you do something about it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think maybe 3 key takeaways for leaders to ask yourself: am I steady? Where am I vague? And where might my silence be creating the wrong kind of story?
Yeah, I hear some really pragmatic facts and figures, data-led leaders in times of uncertainty and lack of clarity say, we don't know anything, so how can I tell people anything? It's like, that's what you're telling them, dude. Yeah. That's what you're telling them. You don't have to have all the answers and the facts, but you do just need to be open. So your team doesn't need you to eliminate uncertainty. That's not your job. It's an impossible task. What they need you to do is help them metabolize it.
That's a nice word.
Metabolize uncertainty. Break it down into bite-sized chunks and work it through. That's your job.
Absolutely. Well done.
Cheerful little note to end on, but it is a true one.
Well, and I think the other point to make is we are going to be going through change and uncertainty for a long, long, long time. This is not something that we need to avoid. This is something we need to lean into. And I hope what we've done is shared with you some practical ways that you as leaders can help your teams navigate uncertainty.
We've also recently recorded a pod on trust and trust brokering in organisations, if there were two emerging and really important strategic disciplines that I think leaders and organisations need to build right now, one is the ability to navigate uncertainty and lead people through change and uncertainty. And the other is the ability to broker trust.
Yeah.
I think if you can build those capabilities in your leaders and your organisation at a cultural and leadership and behavioural level, you are
onto a winner.
Onto a winner. So
Brilliant.
That's it, us done.
Lovely. Thank you very much. And we'll see you next time.
We will.
That sounded like that's full newsreader. That's mean.
Shuffle your papers.
and then play the outro to the 9 o'clock news.
Exactly.
And we're
Introduce
done.
Casualty or Strictly Come Dancing.
See what happens when Alex isn't in the room.
This is what happens when the producer leaves to get sandwiches.
Right, all hell breaks loose.
Oh, good Lord.
Okay,
Come
bye.
back, Alex. All is forgiven.
See ya.